Welcome everybody. Thanks for watching the video. This is how to do things in Windows like a pro. For those of you not familiar with Windows or the best way to use it or different ways you can use it, this video is for you. So let's get going. What I've got going on here is a keystroke visualizer, and that will show everything I do, keystrokes, everything I type, combinations. Alright, so that's all down here in the bottom left. Alright, Windows. There's usually several ways in Windows to get the same thing done. Alright, you can create folders in a few different ways. You can create files in a few different ways. What is everything? Okay. Your mouse, you got a left click and a right click, and then you got a middle mouse button. Now that mouse button in the middle usually scrolls, like rolls back and forth, and then it'll also usually push down. If you right click on almost anything, a little menu pops up. This is called a context menu. Alright, you can use it to create new folder, a shortcut to something, an image, a text document. You can put things in a zip folder. You can also change the way things are displayed. You can sort things. Okay, so that's right clicking. If you right click on a file, you get a little different menu. You can cut it. We'll go into that in a minute. You can copy it, paste it, send it to somebody. You can open it. Keyboard. On your keyboard, you got standard keys like you're used to typing with. Also on the keyboard, you've got modifier keys. You have the Windows key in the bottom row of the keyboard on either side of the space bar. There's normally, sometimes on a laptop, it's on one side or the other to save space, but normally there's a Windows key on either side. They both do the same thing. And then you have the control key, which is usually the very leftmost bottom key on the keyboard. Alright, there's control. And then you have also the alt key. That's another modifier key. Things you can do in Windows. And what is everything? This area that you're looking at here with the background picture, so that's your desktop environment. Okay, Windows also has a thing where you can have different desktops. So you could have programs on one desktop and other programs on another desktop. At the bottom, you have the taskbar, and Windows 11 has added a bunch of kind of undesirable stuff. I don't know, it's really up to you. All this stuff down here, it takes up resources on your computer. So if you don't have the fastest computer in the world, you might want to turn some of these things off. You can do that by right clicking on the taskbar, going to taskbar settings, and it brings all this up. So you could hide the search box down here at the bottom. If you want to hide that, you can make it go away. You can just have an icon, or you can have the box, or you can have an icon and a label. So this is just the default. Task view, that's the different environments that I was talking about. The desktop, new desktop. You can add a desktop here. Then you have desktop 1, desktop 2. You can kill that desktop by just hitting that red X and it goes away. That's widgets. That's another thing. That's what this is. This is a widget. You can turn those off or you can turn them on. You can also customize that and show different widgets and add widgets and all kinds of other things. Other system tray icons. These are things that will show up down here. This is called a system tray. And if you click that, it shows different programs that are running. Here is where you will see updates to different things going on with your system. Right now, this is saying that your device needs to restart to install updates. Pick a time to restart. And then you've got your network, and your volume. Because this is a virtual machine, there's no audio device installed, so there's no speaker, sound, etc. You can also turn on different things in the system tray, like this, or the Windows system or Windows security notification icon. You turn that on or off. By default, those are off. You can turn them on if you want. They don't really matter unless you use that information. Let's close out of that right now. Down here, you've got programs that are pinned to your taskbar. Very easy thing to do. You've got, by default, this is Microsoft Teams chat. File Explorer. That's how you look at all your files. That's where you know where your files are, your folders are. Think that it's like a filing cabinet in your office. So if you click that and open it, there you go. That's inside your filing cabinet. We'll go into that here in a minute. So at the top of these windows, if you left click and drag the window around, you can move it. If you hover on the corners, you can resize it. And you can do that from any corner on most programs. So it really depends on where you're at with your mouse, how efficient you want to be. Internet. Here's Microsoft Edge. That's what Microsoft wants you to use, because that's how Microsoft gets all your nice user data to sell to other people. So if you want to use Microsoft Edge, you can. Microsoft Edge is currently based on Chrome. This is the first, since this is a fresh system, this is the first time that I've started Microsoft Edge. So this is what you're going to see when you start Microsoft Edge. By default, you can use that, you're fine. You can also not update the browser settings. For now, you can just confirm this, move on. Those can always be changed later. So that's your standard web browser. We'll cover that in a minute also. One thing I've got going on here is several things at once. So let's open a text file. All right. Other important modifier keys. If you have a bunch of things on your desktop and you want to switch back and forth, you can hold down the Alt key and hit Tab. And this pops up. And if you hit the Tab key, it'll cycle through them. So it's showing the keystroke modifier, Notepad, Microsoft Edge, and my file browser home window. And that home, that's just the title of whatever folder is currently displayed in that view of Windows Explorer. If you let go of Alt, that will go away. So once again, it's Alt, Tab, and then that pops up. And hit Tab again. While you just keep holding down Alt. Hit Tab again, and it'll cycle through. From Windows 10 to Windows 11, they moved the Start button and the Start menu and everything else. It used to be everything was left justified over here. Now they centered it all like Apple does. If you click on the Windows button here, it's the same thing as hitting the Windows key on your keyboard. Like we talked about earlier, there's always a few ways to do the same thing. So you could click on it, or you could just hit the Windows key on your keyboard. What comes up is the Windows 11 Start menu. And this has pinned programs, like these are shortcuts to programs that are already in here. Microsoft adds a bunch of programs from their marketing partners, like Instagram, TikTok, Disney Plus. You can uninstall these programs. You can also remove them from here by right-clicking and just tell it unpin from Start. And it'll unpin that from the Start menu. You can also add things to it from other places, like documents, that you frequently access, folders, things like that. Not really the best place to do it. The best place is in Windows Explorer. But like I said, there's always several ways you can do the same thing. It's all about what's easiest for you. This is also the search tab. You can search for programs. All right, if you type in text, it'll look on your computer and find Notepad. Okay, that's text editing program. Very simple little typing program. You know. The notification area, you've got your clock down here. If you click on it, your notifications thing will pop up. You could clear all these notifications. This is telling me I've got new updates to Windows 11. No problem, we'll deal with that later. You can also right click and adjust notification settings, which applications will pop up down there, and the ones that will flash a little warning or have a dialog box pop up. Adjust date and time. It takes you into settings, and you can adjust the local date and time. This is all just set to set automatically. No problem. If you want to change your time zone, whatever, make Windows work for you. All right. You might want to change the way it looks, behaves, the way what things do, what things don't. This is kind of where we're going to talk about settings. So let's close all these open things. Don't really need right now. Windows 11 Home Settings. To get to the settings, if you open the Start menu, there's a gear icon called Settings. Click that, and it goes to the settings. I'm just going to go over these very briefly. If you want to learn more, if you go into each setting, it breaks it down into groups. At the bottom, you've got related settings and related support. Clicking any of these will open a web browser and take you to a page with some more information about it. On the left-hand side, there's a list of groups of settings pertaining to different things. System is where we're at now. You can see it highlighted. Under System, you have Display, which controls your monitor, stuff like that. Resolution, different settings for different monitors and different types of computers. Laptops will have different settings. Sound is the same thing. That's where you control your speakers, your volume levels, any microphones or other sound devices you have attached to your computer. Notifications, where you get notifications from applications, and you can also get suggested notifications from apps, other senders, which means ads. These are all the default settings. I have not changed them. You can change them if you want. Learn more about them. Focus. That's something new that came out in Windows 11. It will cut off the internet and web browsers. Anything you're not using for a work task, you can have that cut it off. You can block notifications for a certain amount of time. Things like that. Power is your screensaver, power and sleep. If you go in here, you can turn off the screen after so much time. You can also say never turn off the screen. I wouldn't recommend that on a laptop. Under power is storage. That's where you can find out which applications you have, how much space they take up, temporary files. There's also some more settings in there. Nearby sharing, that's if you have a laptop and you want to hook your phone up to it, you can go in here and enable that. Multitasking, that's snapping windows, different desktops, the task switching, like we talked about earlier. Down here, the different desktops you could have. That's where the settings are for that. Activation will show your Windows activation information, your product key, your any subscriptions you have to Microsoft 365. Troubleshooting, if you're having problems with your computer, this would be a good starting point to try to have Windows help you fix your machine or anything that's wrong with it. If a program keeps crashing, things like that. Recovery, that's if you want to reset your computer back to factory. If you want to do an advanced startup, I'll make another video about that later on. All that stuff is kind of advanced, and it really wouldn't be, I don't know, some home users could do it. Some home users probably wouldn't want to. Projecting to this PC, that's if you want to attach phones and things like that. It's a pairing pin, basically more settings for Bluetooth. Remote desktop, that enables you to access your computer and use it from anywhere that there's an internet connection, the same way as if you were sitting right in front of it. Clipboard, this is another thing that goes into more detail. There's a clipboard history that you can turn on, and that will save anything you copy or cut. It'll save a copy of that to your clipboard history. So if you want to go back 2 days later and see something that you clipped from an article somewhere, you could do that. And then about, that's device specifications, processor, memory, things like that. Any major devices attached. You could also access different system settings, domain or work group. Domain and work group do not really apply to Windows 11 Home version, which this is. That's more of a Windows Pro thing, so that'll be a totally different video. That's all for the system part. Bluetooth and devices. This is devices that are attached to your computer. You can click here and find out more about them. Printers and scanners. This will be another video we'll make later. This just has the default printers installed with Windows 11, and I don't have any other printers installed for this virtual machine running Windows 11. Phone link. This is instantly access your Android devices, photos, text, and more. Okay, that's, again, I don't have enough time to go into detail about that, but that's where you could get, you can open your phone, and you could also have Microsoft give you suggestions about using your Android phone. If you have an iPhone, something totally different. Cameras, any cameras you have connected to your computer, a DSLR, webcam, things like that will be in here. Mouse, your mouse type, buttons, mouse pointer speed, how far to scroll with the scroll wheel, any additional mouse settings. This is where people with visual disabilities or visual impairments might find help, because you can activate things like cursor trails and things like that to help you identify where your cursor is on the screen. Sometimes it's a little hard to see and it blends in. Pen and Windows Ink. If you have a tablet with a stylus that you can write with, you can control the settings there. Autoplay. If you insert a USB stick, what is it going to do with that USB stick? You can control all that there. USB notifications, USB battery saver. This is where it will notify you down here in the lower right if you connect a USB drive. And it'll pop up that little window going, what do you want to do with this? Okay, next up, network and internet. This is all your network settings. If you have a major internet provider, AT&T, Xfinity / Comcast, one of those, you probably don't need to worry about this ever once you get internet. If you're a more advanced home user, you probably know about these things. VPN is something that's coming into use more and more these days, so we'll probably make another video about that. Dial-up, nobody uses it anymore. It is still available, but you could try it. Personalization, this is where you could change the background of your desktop. Different colors. You can install, create, and manage themes. If you change some settings or change the title bar color or something like that, you can save it out as a theme. And if you redo your computer, you can install that theme again and everything will look the way that you set it up to look. Lock screen. This is when you lock your computer and it shows the login screen where you have your username and password. Things that show up there. Text input, keyboard, more keyboard settings. Start menu settings are in here. You change the start menu color. You know, it's got more help stuff. Taskbar, that's another thing that we went over a little bit ago. Fonts, you can change your fonts, make them bigger if you need to. Device usage, select all the ways you plan to use your device, and that's just a way that you could set up tips from Microsoft to pop up and annoy you, or it might help you. It depends on you. Back to the left-hand side, apps, installed applications. Apps, programs, basically the same thing. Some people use the two terms interchangeably. One program I did put in here, or application, is Keystroke Visualizer right here. Now, one thing you can do in the apps is if you install an app, and a lot of these apps, you can click these three dots over here, and a context menu will pop up. You can uninstall. If modify is not highlighted, there's no way to modify it from here. There's an advanced options. If you click like some of them, you'll get an advanced options, and that'll just give you more information about the program. It'll let you terminate it if you want. It'll reset it, or it'll try to repair it if it's not working right. If you try to open a photo and the photo application opens and crashes, you could try to repair that in here. You can also uninstall an app from here. Another way you could uninstall the app. And there's some other settings there. Okay, so back to the apps. These are all the apps that are installed by default. We'll have another video later on about how to install applications. Accounts. This is where your account information is. I'm not signed into Microsoft with a Microsoft account here. This is just a local account, again, on a virtual machine. But if you are signed in, you'll have information about your Microsoft account show up here. Time and language, that's date and time, what language your computer displays in. If you prefer to display it in Japanese, you can change it to Japanese or Spanish or whatever language you prefer to use, and all the labels and everything will change. Some third-party applications might not be enabled for that, but most are. Typing, this is more touch keyboard, text suggestion stuff. Speech, what speech recognition or what language you want Windows to try to recognize speech in. Back to the left, gaming. This is anything related to gaming that shows up in here. A lot of this is Xbox or Microsoft game related. If you don't play games or if your computer is not real powerful, you can just ignore these settings. Accessibility, back on the left. This is where visual impairments, hearing impairments, you can have captions show up. A lot of this is dependent on captions being embedded in content that you watch. So it may not work in all cases. There's interaction, voice access, voice typing, Windows speech recognition, keyboard, sticky keys, filter keys, toggle keys, an on-screen keyboard is available here. Any settings related to your mouse, this is another place you could find those. Eye control, that's primarily if you have a virtual reality device attached to your computer. You can look at things on screen and the cursor will follow your eyes. Pretty cool, but I don't really, it's not to the point where I'd use it yet. Back on the left, we go to privacy and security. Windows security, we'll go into a little bit of things. This is all still just default. I haven't done anything because this virtual machine is not discoverable by the internet from outside. So it's like an invisible machine. If you click on any of these, it'll open Windows Security for what you clicked on. Virus and threat protection opens virus and threat protection. There's no current threats. There's no action needed for virus and threat protection settings. Updates are all up to date. Last update was this morning. Ransomware protection. They want you to set up OneDrive, and that requires logging into Microsoft. So I have not done that. So it's going to keep asking me to do that no matter what. That's fine. If you know what ransomware is, it's some vicious stuff. Locks up all your data, and you got to pay somebody for your data. So the best thing to do is not open anything unknown and don't click on weird ads on the internet. And if you look on the left side of the Windows Security window, you'll see all this stuff is duplicated. So if you want to get to account protection, again, they're wanting you to sign in with a Microsoft account. Firewall and network. Firewall is on. Firewall is on. Firewall is another thing that's more detailed than what we have time for now, so I won't go into that. Have to do that in yet another video. App and browser control. This is where you can kind of help protect your computer. For normal work, normal home users, you don't need to really worry about that. Device security. Security that comes built into your device. This is some more stuff about security on your machine. Most of it's pretty advanced. Device performance and health.
your storage capacity, apps and software, Windows time service, all that's working okay with the green check marks. We're fine. Family options, parental controls. If you want to limit how long the kids can use the computer, you can make an account for them and set up a schedule. And then there's protection history. And this will show you a list of things that have happened related to security. So some of this, set up OneDrive, sign in with Microsoft. That's just there because I have not done that. And that's it for Windows security. The last section is Windows Update. This is pretty detailed, but they try to make it basic. Every time you start up Windows, it's going to check for updates. I've installed some updates, but from a fresh install with this original version of Windows 11, there's a lot of updates between when I got this version and what's going on right now. So there's still some updates that have been installed. It's asking me to restart now. I won't. You can click that button and schedule a restart. If you know you're going to bed at 9 o'clock, you can schedule a restart for 10, and it'll restart on its own and be ready to use in the morning. There's also get help, get feedback, the usual things. There's advanced options where you could set up limits on how much bandwidth Windows Update uses. And that is about all there is for a brief overview of settings. Like I said, I'll make another video kind of going over all these categories on the left in a little more detail. Probably have to do a video for each one just to keep them short. I'll close this window now and we'll get on to the next part. Windows File Explorer. There's a couple different ways you can get to this. You can hold down the Windows key and hit E, and it'll pop up an Explorer window. So Windows E for Explorer, bam. All right. Now you're in there. What you're looking at here is it used to be just called File Explorer window, but now it's a little more. I like some of this functionality. At the top, there's some buttons and things that you can do to adjust the view if you want things listed like that. You can choose details, extra large icons, medium. Usually the default's okay. This is something new that you used to have to get to in a different way, but Microsoft has put it in here conveniently now. You can choose different things. Like, there are some files you cannot see that normally you don't need to see, but if you need to see them for some reason, you can reveal hidden items. Another thing is, earlier I talked about file name extensions. If you click that, it will show file name extensions. Like over here now, you can see this is textfile.txt. That's a text file extension. Pretty much every operating system, and that's the most simple text document that you could have. That's the most simple text document you could have, is a TXT file. So if you want those on, you can leave them on. I like them on. There's also the preview pane. Preview pane if you have a picture or a text file. This text file doesn't say anything in it, so this is a text file. Now if you click over in the preview pane, you'll see this is a text file, and that's the contents of it. If you have Microsoft Word installed, you'll see whatever's in your Word document or Excel document here, whatever program. Like an Adobe PDF, you'll see a little preview of the PDF over there. And it'll be where you could flip through the pages of it. So we'll get a PDF in a little bit. All right, below all, you can also filter by file types. If you just want to see PDFs, Excel documents, Word documents, just be careful, because if you turn that on and forget that it's on and you go look for something and you won't see it, and you'll wonder why. These are some more things that you could do. You could select all, select none. You could select one thing and say invert selection, and it'll select everything else except that one thing. And then there's another options window. This is the old school folder options, where you could change the way things look and certain things like hide extensions for known file types. So that's there. All right, below that you have the address bar. Now this is where this is going to show you kind of like breadcrumbs where you're at. Downloads folder. Okay, shows you where you're at. Any files that are in the downloads folder will show up in the downloads folder. You can also go backwards. You can go back forwards. You can also hit this little arrow, and you've got, it'll show like a little list of the last folders and documents and things that you've looked at, like the folder history. It'll show you that. So if you go into here, and then go into here, and then go into here, and then let's go back there. So it'll show you, the last places that you've been. And you can also click here, and it'll give you a little history list of places that you've been on your computer, different folders. Right now we're looking at the desktop, but if we go into documents over here, these are quick links. You can replace those and change them and do all kinds of cool stuff depending on how you want to use Windows. So if you want to search in your documents folder, you can search for file, and it'll show you, no items match your search. So there it is. Okay. The home thing here is something new that they added in Windows 11. Windows 10 didn't have that, but it's basically just one area. You could put programs here, videos you always watch, or whatever you want, basically, to favorites. The recent ones will show up here. And then you can also go up. So if you're in a folder like this, downloads, and you go up, it's going to go back to desktop. But if you're like in documents, if you have and I'll right click and make a couple folders. Another way you can create a folder is by holding down Control and Shift and hitting N, and it will make a new folder. And when you're done typing, if you just hit Enter, it'll finish naming the folder for you. So now we've got a couple folders. I'm right clicking, going to new folder. So let's call this one folder 3 inside of folder 2. So right now we're in the documents folder, but we're inside of folder 2 and we're looking at folder 3. If we go inside folder 3, we now see documents, and we're inside of folder 2, but we're also inside of folder 3, which is inside of folder 2. So if you want to go back up through the breadcrumbs, you can go up, up. Now you can also see how this list is getting longer. So if you want to go back to folder 2, you can go that way. Or if you want to go back to just documents, there you go. Go inside folder 1. That changes. So it really depends on where you're at. So anyway, that's how to create a little folder. And like I said, there's several different ways you can do it. You can right click, go to new folder. You can hold Control Shift N and it'll make a new folder that you can name. You can also go up here to the new button and you can make a folder that way. There we go, another folder. We're just getting all folder happy. Alright, quick launch. That's all this stuff over here. Favorites and things. Okay. So we always go to folder 2. We can drag folder 2 over here. Why is it? God damn it. Alright. On the left is the home button, OneDrive button. I wish there was a way to remove that, but I don't. There probably is. I don't use OneDrive, so I don't really need it. This is the area that you can add stuff to and take things away from. So if you want to add folder 1 here, you can select folder 1. And if you look, there's a little black line that shows up when you're in between things. So if you want to put folder 1 right under desktop, you can do that. And every time you open Windows Explorer, you'll see this. Folder 1 will be there. If you're in pictures and you want to go to folder 1, just click folder 1. Documents, folder 1. You can also add folder 2. Or even this folder. So it really depends on you and the way you want to use it. To remove something, all you have to do is right click on it and you'll see where it gives you options of things that you could do. You could open that in a new tab, which opens a new tab in the same Explorer window. This is a window. That's why they call this Windows. But now you have tabs in Windows. So you could be in folder 2 over here and name this folder over here on a different tab. So that's kind of a lot like a web browser now, that you can have different tabs in. If you want to remove downloads from there, you can unpin from quick access. or you can pin it to start. Show more options, gives you more of an old school options menu that you could do. Alright, that's kind of like your File Explorer Quick Launch. That's kind of like your File Explorer navigation shortcuts. This is where you go to C drive, D drive, A drive. They don't really have A drive anymore, but this is where you go into C drive, D drive, whatever kind of drives you might have. It's also where you're going to see a DVD drive if you have one, Blu-ray drive, just a CD-ROM. And most computers don't even come with this stuff anymore. Some will come with a DVD drive. Then you have network stuff. So that's how you can see devices within your network within Windows Explorer, which is fine. Okay, so that's Windows Explorer. That is Windows Explorer. That is what in Windows. And how to know things about the basics about Windows and how to use Windows a little more like a pro. So now that you have an idea of what you're doing, have fun doing it. Thanks for watching.